Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 83 today for the beginning of Season 5. If you guys did miss the preseason video uploaded yesterday, then be sure to go check that video out because that will update you on everything new coming into this season. We've got a refresh on some skin liveries for some of these teams, so Racing Point now got an Aston Martin livery, we've got Renault in the Alpine colours, Mercedes back to their silver arrows, McLaren now with a baby blue Gulf Racing livery, and then of course our own car as well, our brand new car, one that hopefully will be a title contender. Of course, the entirety of Season 4, that entire season and storyline was we were bankrupt, we had to recover our money, our funds, our HQ facilities, reopen those, and play massive catch-up on the aerodynamics department. But now we're in a place where I hope, as I said last episode, we can springboard into the title fight once again with the likes of, well, I don't really know, it's going to be very, very tight, it's going to be hard to tell really. R&D wise, everyone is very, very close on the field spread. It could be anyone's game. Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, maybe quick once again. Mercedes, who can they finally get out this rut they've been in for 2 seasons, you know, with Hamilton and Bottas. Now they've got Verstappen signed to their team. Who knows? I think it's going to be very exciting to see how it all plays out. And not only this race, but the next few episodes. I think it's going to take a fair few races to see the proper pecking order, because also Melbourne, it's a very tough place to overtake. Qualifying is going to be quite crucial, and it's always, you know, the first race is never really a big indication. You're going to have some reliability issues as well, hopefully not for ourselves, but we're going to just have to basically see about that. But ahead of the Australian Grand Prix, I did mention in the preseason video, we may earn enough R&D points before we get to that race weekend to actually purchase some more upgrades. So we did some upgrades over the winter in preseason, but just before we go to the race weekend, we're going to go ahead and purchase the final 2 pure downforce upgrades on the aerodynamics tree. Not the final upgrades, because we still got one major upgrade on the DRS in the middle of that tree, you can see. But we're going to finally purchase and upgrade the final front and rear downforce ultimate upgrades. They're going to take a little bit of time. I'm not going to risk it and rush the upgrade. We're going to just take the standard route of doing it. 3% chance of failure. So here's hoping those 2 do not fail and we get those on the car in time for that. I think the 3rd race it'll be for Zandvoort. And then we'll be really cooking, because pretty much we'll then have a maxed out car. But obviously with the competition being very high, it's hard to tell how this is going to go. But last season was our very first winless season since Season 1. Obviously, Gasly got 1 win at the Singapore Grand Prix. We got 2 podiums, 2nd place at Bahrain and the final race. But it was obviously a very different kind of season to one we're used to from Seasons 2 and 3, being in a straight fight. And I need to try and refine some confidence in the car, really, versus Gasly, and also in the car itself, because I felt like I really didn't get on top of it. Because even though, yeah, the car is technically, you know, the same. It's the same FON generic car. I don't know about you guys, but every single time we have a new season, I feel like it feels different. The car does feel a bit different. That's probably purely psychological because of the different livery and maybe slightly, you know, different kind of upgrades that have come on over winter. But, you know, there's not a massive break from when we finished off last season to this season. You know, in terms of me recording this, it's only, you know, 2 days difference. But psychologically, I look at the car whilst I'm driving in these first few laps in anger around Melbourne, and it does feel very different. There's a bit of understeer kicking in the last sector there. You can see I actually went so wide that I tapped the wall. But in the end, the pace seems to be there. There is some pace in this car. It's about just unlocking that, especially over 1 lap. Again, we start off this season how we kind of ended it last season, with Pierre Gasly looking very quick over 1 lap. He tops the Q1 session. Of course, that doesn't matter going into Q2 and Q3, but let's see how that progresses. But it's a bold early statement from our teammate, who was such a great qualifier at the end of last year. And for the rest of the pecking order, it does seem like Ferrari and Red Bull are once again quite close. McLaren looking a bit slow there in Q1, but maybe this circuit just doesn't suit them, maybe. Racing Point looking quite good with Lance Stroll there, the new Aston Martin livery there. So let's see how this progresses. Hamilton looks a bit slow again, I'm not going to lie. So I honestly think that in this game, in our game save of ours, the coding just said Hamilton is just now going to just do poorly. He's just in bad form constantly. I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how Verstappen stacks up against him, and if it is just the car or it is really just the AI being that bad. But we go across the line in Q2, a much kind of more competitive lap time for us, and we finish up in P2 with Leclerc top in the session. Norris comes strong again, Gasly in P4, but look at this then. Lewis Hamilton is knocked out in Q2. Verstappen does make it through, so Verstappen is already on the front foot compared to Hamilton's AI there in the car. So maybe it really has been just the torrid AI drivers this entire time for the Mercedes guys. But again, like at the end of last season at Brazil at Sao Paulo, a lot of disparity between teammates. You've got Ocon out in the other McLaren. You've got quite big position gaps then between the two Ferraris of Leclerc and Giovinazzi. The only kind of non-real difference there, I guess you could say, are the Red Bull cars in a way, and also ourselves with Gasly then P4, the Red Bulls in P5 and P8. You've got Lance Stroll making it through into Q3 for the first time in a long while for Racing Point, and Albon is knocked out. So interesting times with Renault on the back foot, not as quick maybe as they were last season. So we now head into the top 10 shootout, and this is going to be very intriguing to see how this shapes up, because I can't really tell. Everything's very, very close. But as I said before, I think we're going to have to wait a few races to really see the true pecking order for the championship. But nonetheless, very exciting. Our first time in this new car in the top 10 shootout. And the car feeling pretty damn stable in Sector 1 and quite quick in Sector 2. Just Sector 3 where I feel like we're losing the most time the last few corners. Just for some reason, some understeer that's not there in Sector 1 seems to kick in Sector 3 by the time we get to the end of the lap. Maybe it's the tyres, internal carcass temperature playing a bit funny, but that first flying lap is not that quick then. We are 7/10 off at the moment from provisional pole is Max Verstappen in the Mercedes car. So maybe it really was the AI all along, and Verstappen's AI is showing the Mercedes car has some pace there, but look how close it is in that top 5 there. You've got hundredths of a second covering the top 4, then a bit of a gap to Sainz and Gasly. So we've got some work to do. We go for that second flyer in Sector 1 as the checkered flag falls. So this is it. We're gaining marginal time, bit wide there, riding that curve very much like a skateboard and losing time. Don't get penalised for it because we did effectively lose some actual time going that wide. So it's a red burst sector. We're a little bit up, just marginally now in Sector 2. At the moment, still in P8 then, ahead of Norris and Stroll. Surprised to see Norris down there in P9. One of the championship contenders last season, but obviously things can change over the winter. Ferrari and Red Bull have got quicker. Mercedes look better with Verstappen at the wheel, but we go across the line about 1.5 tenths, a little bit over gained. What's it going to be? It's only an improvement of 1 position to P7, and to my shock and horror, Gasly is actually behind us in qualifying in P8, and Max bloody Verstappen is on pole position for the Mercedes team. That's the first pole they've got since, I think, the start of Season 3, potentially. That is a madness in the hands of Verstappen. That silver arrow is back on top in Formula 1 here for at least the qualifying session. We'll see how the race goes, but very, very surprising there. Leclerc P2 in a strong Ferrari showing. Giovinazzi a little bit down the order in P6. Sainz, the reigning world champion, remember, in P3 alongside his championship rival from last year, Lando Norris in P4, who did pick up the pace finally. Perez, surprised to see him there in this single AlphaTauri punching above the team's weight. And then Ricciardo, very poor from him in P9. And Lance Stroll, not surprised. He made it through into top 10, but the Racing Point still got some work to do to really get up the order. But I am, for one, shocked at our qualifying pace. I thought maybe following Sector 1, especially in the last sector, I think I maybe had one more tenth left in it, so that could have catapulted me up into the second row, because that's how tight it is. So what could have been? And then for Gasly, I'm very surprised he did not improve any further on his second run. The qualifying man has been out-qualified by myself, so that's maybe going to hurt the momentum his AI, as an individual has in the coding, maybe. So we'll see how he kind of progresses in the race. But let's go to Sunday. It might be a very surprising one. I can't tell who's going to be battling for all 3 positions in the podium at all, and I love it.
It's finally time once again to begin what promises to be another thrilling season of Formula 1 action. Pre-season times, subject of so much discussion in recent weeks, mean nothing now, as the cars line up to battle it out for points once again. So let's get this season underway. Welcome to the Australian Grand Prix. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake, with the best passing opportunities coming at Turn 1 and Turn 3. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Anthony Davidson is with me today as we get another year of Formula 1 underway.
We're into those tense few minutes before the first race then. Everyone's a little bit nervous about reliability. They haven't been running in the hot, turbulent wake of other cars in practice, and they've not been pushing at 100% for long durations. Let's hope no one has to deal with any nasty surprises.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Young superstar Max Verstappen starts from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Norris, Sergio Perez, and Giovinazzi. The owner driver, Gasly, Ricciardo, and Lance Stroll, Ocon, Kvyat, Valtteri Bottas, and Hamilton, Albon, Matsushita, Nicholas Latifi, and Nick de Vries, Russell, Schumacher, Magnussen, and Jack Aitken. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
Okay, so here we are then for the first race of Season 5 on the grid, and I am in a grid slot that I am a little bit shocked that we're at. I was really expecting a lot more. I thought Gasly would have been for sure on the front row, just knowing how good of a qualifier he was in Season 4. So, a bit perplexing. I think we've both got some work to do. I think this is not a true representation of where the car is. I think we both could have done a lot better. I think because the qualifying was so close, 1/10 would have put me back up into the second row. I think just because it was that close, we're that far down the order. So it kind of just shows this entire season is going to be crucial to get every little last bit out of this car on Saturday and then in the race as well. Strategy-wise, it's going to be quite linear with a one-stop for most people, I would say, with the tyre wear levels being so low now with the upgrades we've all got on our chassis. So soft tyre to the hards, the white wall. So in that kind of case, it really is going to be flat-out racing, just looking to try and show the pace that I believe the car has. So let's just get out there and show it. But it's going to be very exciting because as I said, can't call who's going to be fighting for the top 3, let alone even the top 10. So let's dive in. It's the beginning of Season 5. And we go to 5 red lights down here in Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. Round number 1 of the season is underway, and it's a good getaway off the lights. We jump Giovinazzi in the Ferrari into turn 1 though. Bit of a train ahead of us. Perez makes some contact with Lando Norris, and there's some end plate flying off, and Gasly has managed to thread his way through as we went a little bit deep into turn 1. Had to try and go around and avoid Sergio Perez, and instead that's meant Gasly and Giovinazzi have re-overtaken me. Gasly with a stormer to overtake both of us in the middle. It was 3 wide on the exit of turn 1, and he's made that. Meanwhile, it's still Verstappen in the lead, and look at the understeer we're getting. What's going on with this car? What is going on as Ocon sends it down the inside in the new Golf liveried McLaren? We're able to maintain PA, but look at the lead Verstappen already has, looking so comfy already in that new silver hour of his. Then you've got Leclerc in second place, Carlos Sainz, the reigning world champion, in third. Then you've got Perez with damage, remember, ahead of Lando Norris, Gasly, Giovinazzi. So Norris is going to be on the back of Perez straight away. There's going to be a move. Look at that exit off the chicane, and Norris on the inside. Gasly tried to maybe go around the outside of Perez, didn't quite work out, but Norris up the order. We get brake check by Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi now lunges down the inside. They're side by side. Giovinazzi and Gasly into the last complex, and we're down the inside now. The Italian, he's been caught napping behind our teammate, and we're opportunistic, and we're up into now P7, P6 as it is now, as Sergio Perez peels in the pits following that damage. Meanwhile, behind us, it's the new Aston Martin liveried Racing Point car versus the AlphaTauri. Valtteri Bottas obviously switched to the Italian team alongside Sergio Perez, and that's Lance Stroll, I believe, is it? Yeah, down the inside there. So the Canadian leading the team into the inside. Albon's done well to recover. He finds himself just behind Lewis Hamilton now, but Hamilton still struggling once again for maybe a 3rd season in a row now in our career mode save here. But Bottas just maintains that lead ahead of Lance Stroll. But look at the train forming. It very much is a Bottas train in the AlphaTauri. So that's going to be a bit awkward, but that is the exciting midfield fight we maybe have in this race at least. We don't know. We're going to see how it kind of goes on through the season, of course. And now we're on board briefly there with the new Alpine liveried Renault. It's going to be a little bit difficult to get used to that name, I can't lie there, because I'm just so used to the Renault, and to be honest prefer the Renault brand. But it is now the Alpine team with Kvyat and Matsushita still at the wheel following Season 4. But we now move on a little bit later into this Grand Prix, a few laps into the race actually, and now Gasly is making a charge and looking to overtake Lando Lando Norris, who's looking slow ahead. That was Sainz on the DRS of Leclerc. But here goes Gasly to the inside. Norris tries to defend, but Gasly with a big lunge on the inside there and into Sector 3. He's up the order. He's into P4. And for sure, this is showing the car has some more pace. And Norris lacking some pace here at the moment in the lead. McLaren, obviously Ocon behind, still stuck behind Giovinazzi. But we go for the move and try to make it on the inside, but just can't find the momentum or space really to make it work there. I wasn't confident enough under brakes that Norris was going to give us the room on the inside there. Instead, we have to wait till the chicane now. A little bit far back here with ERS and DRS, but Giovinazzi is now pressurizing me, so that forces my hand. We're going to make the same move that Gasly did on the inside of that right-hander, and we're up into P5 of this Grand Prix. Gasly setting the fast lap of the Grand Prix as well, so once he got out that dirty air of the McLaren, he is off on one. So I think this shows our car has much more pace, and at the moment in the hands of Gasly, the car definitely has the pace for the podium. But behind us now, it's a checkerboard of the two McLarens and Ferrari there. So the two McLarens, you know, they weren't looking that pacey around Brazil, and going to this season now, maybe that's just where their pace is. So they've dropped off from what the lofty heights they were at some point in season 4 in this new one. But we've got Verstappen still leading the way then. He's got a sizable gap in relative terms to Leclerc and Sainz, who are pretty much nose to tail there, and Sainz still unable to get past that Ferrari. Leclerc doing a mega job to be up in P2, you gotta say, actually, compared to his teammate Giovinazzi in P7. Obviously, the Ferrari's still sort of recovering, I feel, from that engine nerf last season, but I think this year they'll have a bit more of an easier time with that kind of lack of surprise nerf in the halfway through the season. But as we now move on to lap number 9, we're going to come in, we're going to cover off Leclerc here and come in, mostly because my tyres really felt horrendous. Verstappen's in as well, Sainz and Gasly continue on, but I just couldn't. We had to come in at the same time as Leclerc and Verstappen, and now we're going to a set of hard tyres for a very long time in this race, so these tyres better feel decent, but those softs very much felt very second-hand at the end of that stint. You know, in Sector 3 especially, the nose just was not getting turned in. So hoping this undercut can help us to try and catch up to Gasly and also the two cars ahead of Leclerc and Sainz. And then we'll be in the business, really. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. So we go on then later. One lap later, this is Pierre Gasly now. He's coming out the pits on his hard tyres. There is Leclerc. It's going to be quite close, I think. The Ferrari on the outside. Oh, it's so fine. Millimeters separating the front left front wing of Gasly there to Leclerc's rear right tyre. So fine, and that is honestly that just you know, typifies the entirety of qualifying. Basically, that's how fine it is in quali, and that's how fine it is in the race. So Leclerc maintains that lead then on the road ahead of Gasly. On the road, though, speaking of, in the top 3 is actually an Alpine and an Aston Martin car here of Fiat, and I think that's also Alex Albon going long. Both those guys going longer in this first stint, as well as Sainz, who goes on for one further lap than Gasly. But here he comes out, and he's actually ahead of the Ferrari. Remember, Sainz was in P3 behind Leclerc before the pit stops, and Sainz has actually gone for the overcut of 2 laps, and he's done it. The overcuts worked here at Melbourne, and Sainz is into P2 of this race, and he's also pit onto a set of medium tyres, so he's doing a one-stop on mediums maybe. So the reigning world champion feeling very bold and very punchy, and looking to maybe close up on Verstappen for the race lead. So the race win is still up for grabs maybe. Verstappen's looked great and comfy all race long, but now Sainz is the only man on mediums in that top 5 fight, so that may come back to be very interesting later on. Meanwhile, Verstappen's teammate Hamilton, he's just nowhere. It really is just Hamilton's AI just not being up to it anymore, as now you can see Norris diving down the inside and unable to overtake the Alfa Romeo car there. So the McLarens are really struggling for pace, or at least Norris is, because Ocon's still up the order in the top 10, but this is Norris down in, you know, outside the points now, just ahead of Hamilton and also the Aston Martin car behind, and he can't quite get past the Alfa Romeo. Very weird sign there. Norris finally does it, but where has the pace gone for the Brit, the man who was in a title fight? Maybe, you know, losing that championship last time out of Brazil, maybe that's just deflated his form and momentum completely, and now we're just going to see a bit of a dejected figure maybe in that McLaren car alongside Ocon, and ahead of all these guys and ahead of Ocon indeed is the AlphaTauri versus Aston Martin. Albon flying, and he's able to overtake the AlphaTauri, and he's up into, I think that's P8 potentially, and now he's going to go and chase after the Alpine of Kvyat. So both Albon and Kvyat, they were in P2 and 3 just briefly before their first pit stop, and now they find themselves, having gone longer in the first stint, they find themselves ahead of both McLarens, well into the kind of second half of the top 10, and Albon there is flying round the outside. They're still neck and neck. This is a great battle between two brand new looking teams here. Albon on the outside, you've got Kvyat on the inside, and Albon goes a long way round and is up the order. So two swift overtakes for the Thai Brit driver in his new Aston Martin livery Racing Point car, looking mega there. So with that kind of, you know, form, and if they continue to upgrade, you could see Racing Point getting up there. I'd love to see them up there, because that would just add to the already, you know, exciting battle we've got between Ferrari, Red Bull, ourselves, maybe now Mercedes and Verstappen, and if McLaren want to pick up the pieces, you know, you could have 6 teams fighting for 10 positions, which just wouldn't work. So that's going to be absolutely extraordinary. But at the moment now, lap 17, you can see locking up there, catching Gasly a little bit. And honestly, at this stage, I was actually getting very frustrated. We're stuck behind Gasly. Gasly can't seem to overtake Leclerc, but neither can I get past Gasly, because we're all just stuck in this DRS train in dirty air, and it's the kind of nature of the Melbourne circuit as well. It's really not a great racetrack for overtaking actual pure racing, so it's very hard to get the move done, and so we're just stuck here, and again, time after time, just looking for moves, but just can't quite make it. Lance Stroll also went out there, so that's very, very sad times for him. So whilst Albon's flying in the points then, which is very good for Racing Point, because they really hardly got into the points last season, so he's doing really well. Meanwhile, on the other side of the garage, the kind of son of the team owner, Lance Stroll, out of this Reading Grand Prix. Sad times for him, but we now move back to our POV. Lap 20, 9 laps to go, and you can see my engine is overheating, and I'm overheating in the cockpit, just getting frustrated here, so we're going to go for the dive on Gasly. Use the curb a bit, little bit of rubbing on the side pod, but we get past Gasly, and the margins were very fine, but we just had to get that done, because I can see the potential for a podium here. We can try and now chase after Leclerc, but at the moment my tyres are a bit gone now in Sector 3, having made that move, and also the engine is overheating, remember, so it's still hot and still a bit slow, and Gasly is able to actually try and re-overtake us now. He's got DRS, we're also doing the same, deploying ERS as well. We go for this switch left to right. He's a bit wayward into that corner, a bit too deep that was, and so on the outside of the exit at turn 1, we get the job, and we go back to the racing line and just cut him off completely, and now we're going to solidify that P4 and then chase after Leclerc. Purple first sector. There is pace in this car. Gasly, just for some reason, this race, maybe because of the poor qualifying, whatever, lack of momentum, he's not showing that pace, so we're going to try and do it for him, and we're going to show that this car has some podium potential in it, and it is a car that can challenge for the title with some consistency maybe, as we go on the outside now of Leclerc, the Ferrari, one of our old championship rivals from seasons 2 and 3. We have a bit of a tango dance on the outside, and we've made it stick, I think. He's still there on the outside. We've locked up with neutral gear, and we're drifting through the final 2 corners there, and so much so that Gasly has now overtaken Leclerc. So I've just done this man a favour. I have just saved his race. I've got him up into P4 because I went so deep and drifted it so much through the second last corner. Now Leclerc got spooked off the road there, and Gasly is up into P4 now as it stands. Meanwhile, the fight for P1 is on. Look at this, Sainz behind Verstappen now. Sainz, remember, on the medium compounder type, but the Mercedes in the hands of Verstappen has looked mega. He is the pole sitter, man. He's been leading all this race from the start, but now Sainz, can he go for a move? DRS open. It looks like the Mercedes car has the straight line speed, so, you know, we haven't really looked at the engine performance too much as of late, but maybe Mercedes have made gains and retaken the lead as the #1 PU, because remember, the Renault used to be #1 when we signed them first in season 3, but now I feel like they're second best, I think, to the Mercedes one. As we now go on from lap 27 to 28, it's been a red first sector, purple second though, and we're going to come through across the line, and it is going to be the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so showing we have some pace, trying to solidify the P3. Unfortunately, the top 2 positions too far away now, so they're kind of booked in, but as we get on to the end of this lap then, the tyres start to go off a little bit, and look at the understeer we've gone cleanly off the road there, and so for some reason we've gone from having the fast lap of the Grand Prix to now 2 red sectors, and Gasly's on the back of us, so maybe now he is pushing for the fast lap of the Grand Prix, but you can see it's very overcast right now. My engineer has said that rain is on the way in 10 minutes, so if the race was to go on for longer, we would get to intermediates, but at the moment now, just a lack of fuel and ERS there. We're on the bubble for Rich Mix, and Gasly sends it to the inside. He goes too deep though, and we get a textbook switch back left to right to re-overtake him, but our teammate really piling on the pressure on the last lap out of nowhere there, with the tyres going off the cliff on these hards there for me, and also a lack of fuel. But we now move through later onto that last lap, and we look at this, the focus on P1, because Max Verstappen is going to come through the final bend to take victory at the Australian Grand Prix. It's going to be Mercedes' first win for about 2 seasons. That is unreal. Max Verstappen delivers Mercedes' first win in over 2 seasons. That is a sentence I didn't think I'd be saying anytime soon. What a weird career mode save we have on our hands, and what a win, I must say, by Verstappen. That is historic for the team, because they've been in such a rut for 2 seasons now. Kind of in a way happy to see them with the hands of Verstappen up there at the top once again, but it'd be great if Hamilton could find his form as well, because then that could be a real tasty fight between those two versus everyone else. But we are going to come home in P3, but look how well Gasly runs us to the line. I think that shows Gasly has way more to show. I think that same Pierre Gasly we saw at the second half of last season, getting those poles, getting that win, he's still there because he was rapid at the end of that race. I only just about defended him and maintained the P3. So I think there's more to come from him, there's more to come from our team, and there's more to come from this crazy grid.
Another superb Australian Grand Prix comes to an end, and it's a thoroughly deserved victory. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions, and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
Well, there you go. For the first time in a long while, we see a Mercedes man stood up on the top step of the podium. It really has been so long. I don't know how many numerical episodes. It must be at least over 30 episodes since a Mercedes last won a race in this career mode of ours. So that's pretty bonkers. And he leads the way ahead of the reigning world champion, Carlos Sainz, with a very strong race, I must say. Surprised, though, they didn't overtake Verstappen, you know, on the mediums. But I guess the Red Bull just didn't have the straight line speed to do it on that back straight. It was a great day in the office for the likes of Alexander Albon, who charged up the order, P15 to P8, in a race where, I'm going to be honest, there was actually not that much action. There wasn't much overtaking between the different battles, apart from maybe myself, Gasly and Leclerc swapping. There wasn't really that many overtakes on track, but Albon managed to fire his way up to P8 from P15. Very impressive there. And also Kvyat as well in the Alpine Renault in P10 from P12 on the grid. Really bad day in the office for Lando Norris. And also Hamilton, P11, just showing that it really, this entire time, I think this answers it, this entire time, it honestly has just been Bottas and Hamilton's AI not being good enough anymore. I guess the coding just clicked for them and said, you know what, it's the end of your days, you're just not going to be good enough, which is why I'm very surprised that Hamilton's AI hasn't retired out of our career yet. He's still going on. Very odd, but it just shows the Mercedes is back, maybe, and it's going to be interesting to have them fighting Red Bull, us, Ferrari, if McLaren want to actually look quick again. Racing Point, if they improve enough, you know, it's going to be bonkers. It really is. This track's not the best for racing, and we still got a pretty damn entertaining race. So I think as we go on through the episodes, it's going to be a real fiery season, this one. And guys, if you did enjoy this episode and looking forward to the rest of this season, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.